We've all been frustrated, and everybody is justified in their level of frustration.
That's Shannon Singleton. She's the new leader of the agency tasked with solving Portland's homeless crisis. She did drop out of the race for Multnomah County Chair to take the job running the Joint Office of Homeless Services.
For now, at least, her title is interim director, but she has endless work ahead of her. As part of our series, Is Portland Over? Our investigator, Dan Tilkin, talked to her one-on-one about her biggest challenge, criticism on how this crisis have been handled. And what did she have to tell you, Dan?
So to lay the land here, Shannon Singleton took over from Mark Jolin, who was the first and only director the Joint Office has had since it was created by the City of Portland and Multnomah County. As you heard, we talked about her frustrations, her obstacles, and what she needs to overcome them, and reasons to be hopeful.
How do you take on a job that some people think is thankless?
I think that's the reality of social work, period. There's not a lot of positions I've held in my career where somebody isn't mad about some decision I've made.
On her resume, Shannon Singleton worked to pass the Metro Housing Bond and the $250 million a year it's bringing to combat homelessness. She worked for Oregon Governor Kate Brown as housing policy advisor and has years working in shelter programs and mental health outreach. She gave up her quest to be Multnomah County Chair because she thought she could have an immediate impact on the homeless crisis.
What is your number one challenge?
I think my number one challenge is going to continue to be our housing market. This lack of affordability is a huge struggle. We really continue to have a lot of folks sleeping outside and in our shelters who are on a fixed income from Social Security, and that's not going to change. And so we have to solve for the problem of folks who make $700+ a month.
Singleton is a firm believer in the housing first model, getting people into safe housing even if they refuse mental health or drug treatment. The model is seeing growing pushback from neighbors of Safe Rest villages who are concerned about their safety, and from some experts who work with the homeless.
We'll continue to say it's a both-and solution, but we're not ready to throw out one of the, again, most robustly researched practices we have in social work.
Do you agree there's pushback growing though?
I agree, and I agree that there's pushback that's rooted in this idea that it's a philosophy. I'm not sure that people fully understand or have spent time looking at the research and data.
Singleton says Portland needs additional federal investment in affordable housing and social programs like rent assistance, child care, and job training, plus increased access to medical and mental health treatment to help people teetering on the edge of homelessness.
Those problems have not been solved, and we're not necessarily seeing all the same people who are outside. So at the same time that we're seeing success and thousands of families and households and people move back into housing every year, we're also seeing more people fall into homelessness every year.
During the pandemic, local policies were adopted to severely limit the number of people moved out of homeless camps to stop the spread of the virus. Some view that as enabling and a root cause of why the homeless crisis has gotten out of control.
I like to remind people of is we have many housed neighbors who have addiction and or mental health challenges that are in various forms of treatment, and we don't dehumanize them because we don't see what's happening in their home. I'd like to bring that same sort of empathy and understanding to folks that simply because they're unhoused doesn't make them less human.
We hear from a lot of neighbors who say that those people who are out on the streets are the ones that are coming into their yards, stealing their cars, stealing their belongings, doing public sex, public drug dealing. I mean, do you feel the pain of homeowners?
I think it's a both end. We have community members who are housed and are unhoused and have various concerns and issues around safety and different definitions of safety. So absolutely have space to hear that and want to move to talking about what the actual solutions are and implementing those solutions as a community. I think we get stuck oftentimes in wanting to be right about our opinion as opposed to being willing to move forward.
Do you ever feel hopeless?
I think there are times where things feel really overwhelming, but I've had the privilege of doing direct service in the way that I remember to hold on to the hope of that one person in front of me. I can feel hope in one person's story and be able to keep moving, knowing that that's possible for the next person that we see in our system. So yes, there's times I absolutely feel overwhelmed or the task feels daunting, but hope is a piece of what I think I get to and continue to hold on to and really strive to hold on to.
I also asked her about an accusation we often hear from viewers that this region is enabling people to move here to live homeless. She pointed to a 2019 homeless count that showed 143 people, or just 7%, reported coming to Multnomah County, at least in part, to receive available services. Comparable numbers from the count that was just done are not available yet.
Okay, Dan, you said she's the interim director. So one question, does she want to do this job full time? And she mentioned the housing first model. We did a lot of stories with other experts who say, we've stuck with that for 10 years and the problem's gotten worse, that it doesn't work. So we've got these battling philosophies. They say we need to treat mental health. We need to treat addiction on the streets. When does she think we'll start to turn the corner on the crisis?
So she's agreed with other assessments I've heard from other people in the industry, says it's going to take years before we turn the corner on this. And yes, she is interested in exploring becoming the permanent director.
Okay, we'll continue to follow it as our series is Portland Over, as we look for solutions. Thank you, Dan.